Hey there, everybody, and welcome to this 10-minute quick start guide to nutrition for mental health. This is part of our series on Mental Health Month. I am putting together a bunch of shorter videos, 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how long on the mouth I get, and in order to provide you with tips and tools to improve your mental health, not just to address anxiety and depression, but to help people who already feel okay feel even better. It's important to remember that neurotransmitters, or the chemicals in our brain that are responsible for our mood as well as our energy levels and our sleep and our pain perception, those chemicals are made from proteins that we eat. If you don't eat proteins, then you're not going to be able to make those. But you need more than just the proteins. In order to convert those proteins or amino acids into the neurotransmitters, your body has to have a whole range of vitamins and minerals, including iron, vitamins A, all of your B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, and vitamin E, magnesium, calcium, and potassium, just to name a few. And there's a lot of other trace minerals in there like selenium and iodine and other things that are important for things like creating thyroid hormones and making certain neurotransmitters more bioavailable to the body. Therefore, it's important to have good nutrition. The other thing that's not really a vitamin or a mineral are your omega-3 fatty acids. And it's really important to make sure that you're getting enough of those omega-3s in order to help your brain cells function optimally. Think about it kind of like greasing a squeaky wheel. You want to make sure that everything is able to function. The same thing is true with water. Now, it can get really complicated when you start thinking about what do I need to eat in order to get all the vitamins and minerals and nutrients I need? Why can't I just take a multivitamin? Well, multivitamins provide you vitamins and minerals in a very imbalanced ratio compared to what happens in nature. And certain nutrients, certain vitamins actually inhibit other vitamins, and certain vitamins promote the absorption of other vitamins. So you're not getting the same response as you necessarily would if you were eating the foods naturally. It's really important to try to eat healthfully, eat colorfully. Try to have 3 colors on your plate at every meal. That's a good start. Make sure that you're drinking at least 8 glasses of non-caffeinated, non-alcoholic fluid every day, preferably a little more than that. If you're drinking caffeine, you need to actually increase your fluid intake because caffeine dehydrates you, and even 1% level of dehydration contributes to confusion, brain fog, low energy, and maybe some symptoms of depression. Nutrition's important. That's kind of the basic takeaway from this slide. I have narrowed it down. I've gone through and I've looked at all of the vitamins and minerals that your body needs in order to function well. And I have narrowed it down to some of the foods that provide multiple vitamins and minerals. So you're not having to eat 40 different things. We're narrowing it down to 13 to 15, and I'll talk about that as we go through. The first one is broccoli. Broccoli is a great food that you can incorporate in a lot of different things. With your vegetables, your broccoli as well as your green beans and your green leafy vegetables and things like that, the more colorful they are, the more nutrients they have. If you cook them until they're kind of a gray, brown, nasty look, they don't have hardly any vitamins left in them. So eat them raw when possible, but if you just don't like them raw, lightly steamed until they're like that bright green and still a little bit crisp will ensure that you're getting the most bang for your buck, so to speak, out of broccoli. You can also eat broccoli sprouts, which are really high in a lot of really good cancer-fighting chemicals. They taste a little bit to me like radishes. I'm not crazy about the taste, but it is something you can do if you don't want to eat broccoli every day. Oils are important for those omega-3 fatty acids. Flaxseed, canola, and olive oils are your best sources of omega-3s. If you are a vegan or a vegetarian, it will be really important to make sure that you are getting your omega-3s in by ingesting some oils, because you're not getting any of those from other sources. Whole grains, and whole grains incorporates all grains, not just wheat. I know a lot of people are sensitive to the gluten in wheat, but they may be able to eat whole grain oats. Looking at different whole grains that are available, they are a powerhouse, not only of glucose in order to, complex carbohydrates in order to help you fuel your body, but they also provide a lot of your B vitamins. Legumes like lentils are out there. If you're a vegetarian like I am, 20 different ways to make lentils and lentil loaf and lentil casserole, and there's lots of recipes for lentils out there. If you don't know what lentils are or you haven't tried them, experiment. You may think, but they're really actually pretty tasty, and you can dress them up with different seasonings and flavorings and things like that. Legumes are really cost effective. They're really high in protein, really high in fiber, and also high in a ton of vitamins and minerals. Spinach and leafy greens, preferably spinach, but any of your dark leafy greens like kale are going to have a bunch of really awesome nutrients in them. You notice I'm not listing all the different nutrients. If you want a more inclusive list of all of the nutrients, we have a longer video on nutrition for mental health on the AllCEU's education channel. Really, what I want you to focus on is, there are only a few foods that you really need to try to incorporate into your diet. The next one is nuts, particularly cashews, walnuts, and Brazil nuts. Cashews and walnuts have a lot of trace minerals in them. Walnuts are really high in omega-3 fatty acids. Brazil nuts are those nuts that kind of look like bananas, the really big nuts that are in your mixed nuts. They are super high in a vitamin called selenium, as well as other vitamins. Brazil nuts are awesome. They're one of my favorite nuts. The one thing you have to remember with them is that they have so much selenium in them. You can actually eat so much that you get selenium toxicity, so you'll feel nauseous afterwards. You really want to limit yourself to no more than 2 Brazil nuts in any given day. Apricots are really awesome. If you're getting fresh apricots, that's wonderful. Dried apricots, you will want to look for apricots that are not sweetened, ideally, because they have enough sweet to them when they are just naturally dried or dehydrated. And they make a great snack that you can carry with you. Think that kind of along the lines of raisins and other things. Apricots, dried apricots are great take-along foods. Bananas are another powerhouse, and they actually even have some precursors of our what some people call our pleasure chemical, dopamine. And you know that dopamine is actually our I want to do that again chemical. It's our perseveration chemical, but I digress. Bananas are really awesome. Again, if you get dried bananas, the dehydrated banana chips, that's great, but try to get ones that are unsweetened. Banana chips are often dehydrated and just dosed with tons and tons of sweetener, sugar. If you don't like the taste of dehydrated bananas by themselves, maybe dip them in a little bit of honey. That way you can control how much sugar you're getting with it. Baked potatoes, not sweet potatoes, but white potatoes. White potatoes and sweet potatoes, believe it or not, are not even in the same food plant family. They are totally different things. Baked white potatoes are high in a lot of different vitamins, especially if you eat the skin along with it. So make sure to wash it real well and then eat the skin. I love the skin, especially if it's nice and crispy. Sweet potatoes have their own place. Obviously, they're an orange food, and they also provide a lot of starch and a lot of vitamins, but different vitamins than white potatoes. Eggs. If you are willing to eat eggs and or dairy, eggs and dairy are super high in a lot of different nutrients. Think about with eggs, you have this little chick that's all it eats the entire time it's in the egg when it's growing. So that yolk must have a lot of really good nutrients. It's got a lot of really balanced nutrients that are super bioavailable. Obviously, with eggs, you're not going to eat those raw. You're going to cook those. So please, remember when we talk about raw, we're talking about vegetables. When we're talking about eggs, we're talking about cooking them in some way. But they are really high in a lot of vitamins and minerals. Dairy, that includes your cheeses, your milk, your yogurt, your cottage cheese. Obviously, we know those to be high in things like calcium. Dairy is really helpful in encouraging you to get a well-rounded set of vitamins. Think about dairy as kind of your white, broccoli is your green, legumes are your browns, grains are your browns, apricots are your oranges. You see, we have a lot of color here. Fortified foods are really important for vegans because B12 is only available from animal-sourced foods. If you don't eat any animal-sourced foods like dairy or eggs, then you will need to get your B12 from fortified foods. One thing to remember is fortified foods, interestingly enough, like the fortified cereals, they spread the cereals out on this big table, and they just spray them with a multivitamin. That's all it is. It's nothing super fancy, nothing super special. It's no different than taking a multivitamin. Just keep that in mind when you are deciding whether you're going to pay more for a fortified cereal or not. Tomatoes are a red food, obviously. They are super high in a lot of vitamins and minerals. Interestingly enough, tomatoes actually have some of their components are more bioavailable when the tomato is cooked. But raw tomatoes, super high in a lot of other vitamins. So, either way, you're good. Ketchup does not count. There's only a little bit of tomato in comparison to everything else that's in the ketchup. So look for things like diced tomatoes, tomato paste, stewed tomatoes. Those things are going to have, or just sliced tomatoes on your sandwich. Dark cocoa, one of my favorite. I get dark cocoa powder, the organic dark cocoa powder. It's a little bit bitter, but I put about a half a teaspoon in my coffee when I drink it. And, it just adds that chocolate taste to it. But it's high in a lot of trace minerals as well. And interestingly enough, it actually has a fair amount of protein. And finally, number 15 is salt. Most of us don't need any additional salt. So this may not be one that you add to your diet. But if you have switched to eating pure sea salt for everything, you don't eat any iodized salt, you may actually have an iodine deficiency. A lot of Americans are actually developing iodine deficiencies because we have switched over to sea salt and we are not eating things like kelp or spirulina that may provide the iodine that we need. So consider what you're eating. If you want to get iodine without increasing salt, which is totally possible to do, look for it in your multivitamin. Most multivitamins now do contain iodine because of the way our eating patterns have changed. As always, before you start taking a multivitamin or alter your nutritional patterns, it's important to consult with either a registered dietitian or your doctor to make sure that what you're doing makes sense for you. Thanks for being with me today.